a big mouth, you know, a know-it-all.
Don't listen to him, he's an nincompoop.
The guy is a radio genius, but he's got a hell of a lot to learn.
Right, hi everyone. Chris 2E0UKH. Now, I had a bit of bad luck a few weeks ago. My ICOM 7100 died. Well, the front end died on it on VHF, and a very good friend of mine at the club said, yeah, bring it along, we'll fix that, no problem. I won't say who it is, or everyone will be ringing him up, but I'm very grateful to him. And he's got a DMR set up, and he's got a bit of an old system, you know, and I thought I'd modernise his system to say thanks, you know, give him some money as well. And this is his TYT 380. Now, before I work on anyone's radio, I back up the code plug so it's all safe in case I muck it up. So I'm now going to put the hacked firmware on here. Usually works as long as it's not the VHF version. I think the VHF version, it will go on, but you can't fit the database. So if you go to, well, I just search for the from Google, I search for TYT Flash Tool 1.08, and it was the top one in the list, kg5rki.com. So you go in there, you go in the md380 tools section, and it's right at the bottom, second from the bottom, Titera Flash Tool 1.08c beta. So I've downloaded it there. I show the file location, don't need the website anymore. Right, so there's the download there. I'll right click on it and I'll extract it with 7-zip. So there's the flash tool. I'll get rid of the the zip. So there's the flash tool. This is what we're interested in. And I'll just run this. But before I do, I'm going to turn the radio on, putting it into DFU mode. So it's off and it's connected with the wire. So turn it, transmit the button above and switch it on, and it comes on with a flashing green and red. Right. So it's in the mode where it's ready to accept the new firmware. So I'll run the software, choose my language, and this is non-GPS, so I'm going to download the non-GPS version. If yours is GPS, choose GPS. So it's got the file. I can choose to put the TIE tools in, the beta tools in, which will have extra things in, or the md380 tool. So I'll go with the top one because I'm familiar with that one, and I'm going to flash it to the radio. I'm just looked at the radio, it's still flashing red and green. Press flash. So this is, some of these indicators are not accurate. But that one is. That one doesn't take long. So it's now got the tools in it. If I turn it off and turn it on, we'll be greeted with a boot screen, TYT tools. That says the TIE tools actually. So it's got the tools installed, and it wouldn't be any good without all the user database. So I'm just going to download the user database. Now this is a tiny file, but it's got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of contacts in, and I'm just going to flash that one over. Now this one does take a while, so I'm going to flash this one over. The radio's just in the on mode to flash the database, and I can tell it is working because it's going to take a while. So I'll leave it doing this. Might take 5 minutes, and I'll catch you when this is complete. Right, so I've got the user database in, I've got the hack firmware in, got the toolz version in, latest one. I'm now going to write him a simple code plug just to get him started. I'm going to put in a local repeater. I'll put his details in at the end. So when programming a repeater or a hotspot channel, there's 3 stages normally. That's all there is to it. You create a digital contact, you create the talk group, you create the channel information, and then you put it in a zone so you can find the channel. I mean, there's lots of little settings you can alter, power, talk out timer, stuff like that, but that's the basics. Create a channel, create a contact, a channel, and put it in a zone. So, digital contacts. So I'm just going to put in, let's say, the top 5 talk groups. So we'll put in the 91, the worldwide calling one, we'll call that 91. It's going to be group call, and the ID is 91. Make a few more. Number 2, 2350. Group call, and I'll make that 2350. And that one should be 91 as well. I'm in the dark here. 91. Right, number 3. We'll put in TAC 310. Group call, ID is 310. And what else can we put in? I'll put in a couple of chat channels. 2351, 2351, and 2352. So this is the name, this is what it would display, although the toolz does search for the actual name, and you've got the caller ID there, that's the actual talk group. 2352. So I'll just click away and that'll remember it. Yeah, so they're in now. The talk groups are in. Second stage is to create a channel. So channel information. You can keep making channels like this. Right click it, add, right click it, add. So I'm going to put in an actual repeater in this area. So it's going to be digital, talk out timer, Make that a bit higher. Power high, because it's an actual repeater. You could be accessing it from miles away. And I'll call it GB7KE. GB, do it in capitals, looks neater. GB7KE. And the frequency, the receive frequency, 430.975. It's got to have 5 digits after the decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And transmit frequency 438.575. Always transmit. If you change that to channel 3, it'll only allow you to transmit when no one else is speaking. That's not a bad idea, doing that. And then going down here, we've got to link this channel to a talk group so that when he keys up, so this repeater is going to have two slots obviously. Normally the first slot is the busy one, the second one is not used so much. So I'm going to link slot 2 to 2350 in the UK. So contact name. These are all the ones I created a minute ago, you see. So 2350. Slot 2, because it's not, I don't want to take over the normal busy one. And it's color code 1, is it? Yeah, color code 1. Color code 1. So that's in. No encryptions, that's not allowed. All this is analog data. And GB7KE, I'll just call it slot 2, is created. Now, if I wanted to make another channel for slot 2, you can right click on here and copy that channel. Find the next channel, right click and paste it in there, and all the parameters have changed to what the other one was a minute ago. So there's only a couple of things I need to alter. So if I wanted to link that channel to something else, I'll call it GB7KE slot 2, and I'll take this one to tag 310. But I'm not going to mark it up here because you might wish to change what it's actually linked to. So I don't actually know if I can have two channels the same. Yeah, you can have two channels the same. So it's put, all that's done is put the right frequencies in and the slots and color codes, and all I've got to alter, you know, timer, it's on power high. I've just got to alter the talk group that it's linked to. I'm just going to give it an extra indicator on here. I will put in 310 actually. Can't think of any other way to do it. So this one is linked to 310, tag 310, color code 1, slot 2. And I'll come back to the other one and I will call that 2350. And that's linked to 2350. So I've made a couple of, few talk groups. I've made a couple of channels. They could be hotspots. But you can't find them until you put them in a zone. A zone is a folder. If you want to make more zones, you can right click and click add. But I'm going to go for zone 1, and these are all the channels available, and these are the members in that zone, channel members that are in that zone. 2350 is already in there. So if I highlight TAC 310, that drops it across. So I've got 2 channels in this zone, and I'll call that zone local. This is when he's at home. He'd go to local. You might make another zone when you're on holiday, if you go somewhere. So at the moment I've got 2 channels in there. I'm going to make another channel for the hotspot. You don't really need many, because on the firmware you can type in the talk group. So let's just make another one for his hotspot. So I've got channel 3 here, free. Just going through the settings again because I haven't copied and pasted this time. So talk out timer high, power low, because this is for the hotspot channel, and we'll call this hotspot. So we'll put him on nice and high up away from satellites. That's what they like you to do. So we'll put this one on 439.1. So I'm just going to copy that. Paste that in there. And it's got to be linked to a hotspot to get started with. So I'm going to link it to TAC 310, and I'm going to let him change the talk group by typing it in. So I'm going to set up his hotspot. I'm going to build him a hotspot, get a memory card, get it all in, get Pi-Star in, and it will be color code 1, and it will be repeater slot 2, because it's going to have Pi-Star. By default, Pi-Star forces slot 2, and that's it. I always double check the information. TAC 310. So I've made one channel called hotspot. Now you can make multiple ones of these if you wanted to, by right clicking that, copy, pasting it into these other channels, and you could link that to other talk groups. You can have 10 channels, remembering you can only have 16 in a zone on the MD380. And you could have a ton of channels all linked to different things, all identical but with a different name and a different talk group. You can keep going back to digital contacts and put as many as you want in. But nowadays you can do a nice simple code plug where you just type in the number. What could be easier? Right, so that's the hotspot channel made. And on these radios, by the way, on these MD380s, you can't just make a channel, but you can edit a channel. So I quite often just make a dummy channel. So channel 4, I'll call that I'll just call that MEM for memory. You know, different memories that you can alter. Doesn't matter. It's going to be digital. Give it a longer talk out time. I'll stick it on high power because it might not be for a hotspot. because I'm doing this so that they can go in and edit it. So it's got to be linked to something, so we'll call it 2350, and that's mem. So I'm just going to make a few more channels, and that mem, these are memories that someone can edit. So I'm just going to call these memory 1, memory 2, memory 3, memory 4. Right, so if you go to a show, if you go to a rally or something, you want to alter a frequency, go on holiday, like I did when I got that contact abroad. I went in and I edited a channel. You don't want to muck up one of your good channels, so you can edit these and change them to anything you want. So that's all done, and I'm just going to go through some other settings. I'll put the radio ID in a minute off camera. Menu items. I mean, this is an important one. You want program radio. If you don't have that, you can't do what I've just said. Program it. Button definitions. I normally set a button to do a 4000, a disconnect. So let's try and do this. Side button 1. I'm going to make the button below transmit. I'm going to make that a 4000. So first of all, I've got to make a digital contact 4000. is the disconnect command. It's got to be group call when you're going through hotspots and repeaters in the UK. Not sure about abroad where you live. So I'll call that 4000. I clicked away and it altered it to a 1. I'll click above it. Yeah, so I've created a 4000 group call. So I'll now go back to my button definitions. Side button 1. Well, which one's that? That's probably the one above transmit. So button 2, I'm going to assign to one touch access. So number 1, it's going to be digital. Change it to 4000. It won't be text message, it will be a call. And in the digital contacts, I set it to group call. Group call. So I've created the 4000 disconnect command, and that is in one touch access number 1. So I'm going to assign the lower button, button 2, to one touch access number 1. And when you press that, you'll get an option 4000. Press transmit in a gap and you'll be disconnected. Text messages, not interested in that. Privacy, digital, maybe contacts. I personally don't bother with the receive groups. Zone information. So look, let's look at this zone I've made called local. It's only got these 2 channels in. So we need to put all these others in. Highlight the top one. We'll send them all across. So looks like we're very nearly done. So I'm just going over my information. local zone, scan list, not interested, channel, DTMF signaling. So I'm going to pop in the radio name, probably the person's call sign, and ID, the ID number, and when it switches on you can say have a picture or have a character string. So I'm going to put the person's name and call sign there. So once you've done that, you've got to write this code plug to the radio, and that's done with program write data. Right, so I've got the radio on. I'm in the zone I created called local, and I'm on the channel I made called hotspot. I did change the frequency actually, so it coincided with my one here, but everything else is exactly the same. And if I press the button below transmit, you'll see I've got the 4000 command. So in a gap, if I see, I missed it. In a gap, if I press 4000,
Not linked.
that'll unlink me. So that's really handy. And I went into menu, utilities, titles, show calls, and I selected in there user database. And then even things like showing TAC 310 USA DMR, I didn't label it as that. I just gave it the name 310. It's getting all that from the user database. So set show calls to user database. And so I'm on this hotspot. I'm not linked to anything. If I press this hash button twice, I'm straight to this screen where I can enter a talk group. So he's on the hotspot channel. You can go to any talk group in the world. Let's go to UK 2350 and then press green to come back, and then the line above it changes, and I should now be on 2350. You can press transmit and I'll see my hotspot light up. So I am on there. I saw it come up on the screen. I'll just back out a little bit, and you can see it's saying United Kingdom 4400. I mean, that's a bit misleading. If you're on a repeater on 2350, it's 4400, but if you're on a talk group, but they're both the same thing. They're both the same destination. It's just that when you're on a hotspot, I'm using talk groups, but that's another subject. Anyway, it's all working. I'm very pleased with that, and I'll now start work on the hotspot itself. So I'll just unlink from there.
Not linked.
Right, 2E0 UKH, Chris, back to standby. Cheers.